Welcome. So glad you could be here today. I am loving these Ask Jane meetings. I just really love being able to provide some free help for you. So glad you could join me today. We're going to wait just a second, allow Zoom to bring everybody on. Would someone mind just typing quickly in the Q&A for me? Let me know you can hear me. I want to make sure my audio settings are correct. That would be very helpful for me. Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that, Lisa. Okay. We're going to get started here. Just 1 second. Um, while we're waiting for everybody, for Zoom to bring everybody on, I just want to tell you about my amazing weekend. It was my husband's birthday, and it was kind of a big one. So we went all out, and we really enjoyed the best time together. We live in Utah. We are in a suburb of Salt Lake City. So we're just down in the valley, and we spent the weekend up in Park City at a lovely hotel. And the weather was really sunny and perfect. And we went biking and swimming, and we ate incredible food. And it just felt like a honeymoon. It was so surreal, honestly, like a dream come true. And the reason I'm telling you this isn't just to kind of brag about my weekend. I really am not trying to make anybody feel bad about their situation, but I'm seriously in awe of what we've been able to create in our relationship. From where we were even 5 years ago to today is truly a miracle. And I really want that for you too. So, for those of you who are new to me, my name is Jane Copier. I'm a certified life coach through the Life Coach School, which is the top notch coaching institution in the world. And I am a marriage coach, and I have a background in psychology. And I just love helping people who are deeply unhappy in their relationships, but who don't want a divorce. And I help my clients not only mend their marriages, but learn to love them all over again, just as I've done in my own life. I can speak to it because I've walked that path. I've been down that road, and I know what it takes to get to where I'm at now. I really want that for you too. At the Life Coach School, we practice what's called causal coaching, which is helping our clients to identify the root cause of the struggles that they have, the thinking that's creating their results. And then through a very scientific process, we help them fix the problem at the root, which is exactly what I do in my 6-month intensive program. I help you rewire your thinking. So through that methodical process, it allows you to create deep and lasting change and really enjoy your life in a way that you've never experienced before. So we'll get going with your questions here in just a moment. But first, I want to shout out to my client, Krista, who sent me this awesome testimonial last week. And I have to share it with you. She said, I hired Jane to help me with my marriage, which she did, but I had no idea how much every other relationship in my life would improve as well. I've been able to heal a deep rift with my mother that has been hurting for years and years. I can't believe what I've been able to do in such a short time. It feels like magic. I can also say for the first time in my life, I love me for reals, like all of me unconditionally. This is a true first. Thank you, Jane. You have no idea how grateful I am. Ah, Krista, so good. Thank you so much for sharing this. Coaching is just the best. It literally helps in so many ways. I appreciate you taking the time to share your experience because it helps other people be inspired to make this choice for themselves. It can be a difficult ask to talk our brains into taking this big step, but it's truly your first opportunity for a transformation. When you make the decision to jump in and to do this work 100%, you can change the pattern of your life, and the rewards are incredible as you create an entirely different future than the one that you keep repeating now. So my first investment, I'm just going to share with you my experience a little bit. My first investment in coaching, I paid $18,000. I didn't ask my husband. I had never spent that kind of money on my own. And I remember all the feels about that. I was extremely nervous and crazy excited at the same time. And I remember telling him that this was a decision I was making for myself. It was the first time that I'd ever really stood for myself in this way. I had never had the courage to make a choice like that before, but I was so done living my life in the same rut that it had become. And I didn't have the money sitting in my account, not at all. In fact, I didn't have the money. I put it on a credit card, but I was determined to figure it out, and I did. And I knew that I had to make a change, and it was the best investment I've ever made in my life. Making that one decision alone transformed me. I owned it 100%. I had my own back, and I was super determined to get as much out of it as I could and create the results that I wanted. It was all on me. I couldn't blame anybody else for my decision because I took it all on myself. And honestly, the relationship that I was able to build with myself because of it has changed me in so many incredible ways. And I share that with you because I want you to think about it and think about how you hold yourself back in your own life. And what are the fears that you're allowing to rule your decisions? And examining that for yourself is a really important first step. So let's get to your questions and see if I can give you some help today. Thanks to all of you for submitting questions. When you have the courage to ask a question, you not only help yourself in the form of some free coaching from me, but you also help other people who are watching as well. So thank you so much for your questions. So I'm going to start today by teaching you, as always, the self-coaching model. The model was created by my coach and mentor, Brooke Castillo, as a way of organizing and understanding universal truths. It helps us understand how and why we're creating the results that we're experiencing. And we also use it to help us make changes when we're wanting to create something new, when we want a different or new result. So the way that it works, I'll go through it really quickly. Again, I know for a lot of you, this is review, but that's okay. You can never learn it enough. That's what I think. So we always start with a circumstance. A circumstance is neutral. A circumstance is the math of the equation. It's a situation. It's what is. So it's facts only that go in the circumstance line. I always use this example, but it's like the numbers on the scale. When you stand on the scale and you see the number of your weight, the gravitational pull of your body, that number is a fact. That's all it is. And it's neutral. You have a thought about it that might be positive or negative, but the number itself is just neutral. Okay. So the things that other people say, the things that other people do go in that circumstance line. They're always neutral. It's anything beyond our control, anything outside of us, right? It's the weather, the degrees outside. It is the color of your eyes or your car, just the facts. So we have circumstances that happen in our lives, and then we have a thought about a circumstance. Your thought creates a feeling, and the feeling in your body is just a vibration that's caused when two neurons connect, creates a chemical reaction that causes a vibration in your body, and that vibration is emotion. It's your feelings, okay? So your thought creates your feeling. And then the action that we take, all of those actions are driven by that feeling. So if we're feeling excited, we take actions that reflect that. If we're feeling depressed, the way that we show up reflects that. Our feelings drive our actions, and then our actions create our results. Our results are what we are left with, what we create through our actions due to our feelings, which are caused by our thought. And our result can always be traced back to our thought. We can always look at what we're achieving, what we're accomplishing in our lives, and find the thought that created it. Okay? So now that you have a decent understanding of the model, I'm going to go to your questions, and we'll plug a few of them in and show you how this works in real life. So again, I really appreciate your questions. We have some good ones today. Have some really good ones. I think it will be helpful for a lot of you. Okay, so from Lacey. Lacey says, I need some help with my birthday presents. My husband always buys presents for me that I do not like, want, or use. Even when I tell him not to, I get really upset when he does this, as not only do I see it as a waste, it shows his lack of understanding of me and my likes. I try not to show how disappointed I am, but I'm never able to mask my feelings and I ruin the day. My birthday is coming up in a few weeks and I'm dreading it. How do I get over this? Okay, Lacey, thank you so much. Listen, this is a question I can really relate to. This used to be a big issue for me as well, because in my family growing up, this was kind of the love language we were taught. This was the culture of my family. Gifts were a really big deal. They were super important. And kind of the bigger the gift, the more expensive the gift, the more thoughtful the gift, the more we felt loved. And then my husband, on the other hand, came from a very large family where gifts were rarely exchanged. And if they were quite small. And so, what I want to show you is that it's never the gift that makes us feel anything. It's what we make the gift mean. So, if we take a look at your model here, in the C line, you have gift from your husband. And your thought right now is he doesn't love me or care enough about what I want to buy me something I like, right? So he doesn't care. I'm just going to put that there. He doesn't care. Okay, and when you have that thought, your feeling is really unloved. It's like unappreciated. You feel down, right? So you feel a little bit unloved. And then how do you show up with him when you feel unloved? My guess is you're not very warm and loving to him. You're probably a little pouty. You're acting like you're dreading the coming celebration, and maybe you're even showing your disappointment ahead of time. Okay. And then your result, I'm not going to write all the actions in here, you guys. You know my writing. But your result is you mess it up before he even has a chance to mess it up, because you are assuming that it's not going to be good, right? So I mess up my birthday. That's your result. And it all reflects back to this thought that he doesn't care. Well, I am not showing that I care. And I'm making this true for myself. Like, I'm saying that he's not going to care for me. And so then I assume it and then I mess it up. So what I want to tell you is that you think that what he buys creates your feeling of disappointment, but it's not. You could make it mean all kinds of things. It's totally optional. You could make it mean that anything that he gives you is an expression of his love for you, but you're not allowing yourself to see it. Does that make sense? I have a friend, this is a funny story, but I have a friend that once got a blood pressure monitor from her husband for her birthday. So funny. She was so confused. And she was honestly a little hurt by the gift, but she was a little overweight and she was struggling with some health issues. And in his very analytical brain, this seemed like the perfect way to show her how much he really loved and cared for her. So even though she interpreted it in a way that didn't feel so good, once she understood the thought process behind it, then she could really allow herself to feel the love that came with the gift, even though it wasn't something that she wanted. So my suggestion to you is you could decide right now that you're going to love and enjoy your birthday 100%. You get to choose to be thrilled by any effort that's made to celebrate you, even if there's no gift. Even if it's only words, happy birthday. Even if nobody else celebrates your birthday at all. If you want to celebrate your birthday, that's totally an option for you. And you get to feel the joy of celebrating yourself. If there's something special that you like, go buy it for yourself. I do it all the time. I always get exactly what I want and exactly what I was hoping for, because I just make it happen. I'm never disappointed. And anything anyone else does is just icing on the cake. So really, the most helpful thing I can recommend to you is if you drop all those expectations and just really allow other people to love you and celebrate you however they want to, you'll appreciate their efforts so much more. And quite frankly, you're going to be way more fun to celebrate. Chances are he's probably really dreading your birthday too, because he knows that historically, no matter what he chooses to get for you, you're going to be disappointed. So change it up this year and decide that no matter what, it's going to be awesome. And then you make it that way by choosing the thoughts that make you feel loved, filling your own cup so that you just get to enjoy whatever else comes your way. Okay? All right, quick erase. So, as we go along, you guys, if you have questions about anything and any of the coaching or any of the suggestions, or even about the model, please type them into the Q&A box. I'll try to watch for those and address them as they come in. This one is from Teresa. Teresa says, my husband is recovering from a pornography addiction. Because of the lying associated with the addiction, I no longer have feelings for him. I want to love him. How do I love him again? Teresa, thank you so much for reaching out. This can be a very difficult situation for a spouse to work through, but it's absolutely possible. Addiction is a crazy thing. And with pornography, it's even stronger than even heroin because it hijacks the brain and it affects both the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous systems. The brain receives such an unnatural flood of dopamine that the brain doesn't get a break and the cravings become really excruciating. And then on top of that, it also produces a protein in our brains called delta phosphate, which is it not only turns on the cravings in a hard way, like really forcefully, but it also builds those neural pathways in your brain at a super fast and unnatural rate. So what happens is those neural pathways created by viewing pornography take a lot of energy. Like I said, they build at a very fast rate, and our brains need a lot of energy to create those neural pathways. So when they're building these super highways around pornography, what happens is it causes the other neural pathways to subside or to slow down. So then the person who's experiencing the addiction is literally working with a diminished capacity to think clearly. And that often results in like the lying that you are talking about. So, Teresa, it's super important for you to understand that what's happening for your husband has nothing to do with you and everything to do with the chemistry in his brain. It isn't personal. This is the hardest thing for women to understand, but it isn't personal when he wants to view pornography. We make it mean things about ourselves. But the good news is, even though it's really difficult, the brain is plastic. Like we can change those neural pathways. He can create new neural pathways by reinforcing other pathways and diverting his attention away from those monster pathways that have been created until they can subside and diminish. And he can do that, but he'll need some help. The process is really similar to that of someone who's trying to give up sugar. At first, we're so used to um, that concentrated pleasure of sugar. We don't enjoy the natural sweetness of fruits and vegetables. But as we continue to eliminate concentrated sugar from our diet, our taste buds adjust and we can enjoy that natural flavor again, natural sweetness that comes from natural sources. And it's a little bit like this with pornography too. Once we can stop getting that concentrated pleasure, regular sexual interaction and behavior can resume and be satisfying again. So where do you fit in all of this? I know that's really your question. And certainly it's not easy to be the spouse of someone who's dealing with addiction. But managing your own mind around it will help keep it from making it worse than it needs to be. So let's take a look at your model. I'm going to put in the C line. Remember, we want to just be very factual. So husband has porn addiction, and we're going to just say, and tells lies. And if I were recommending you do this model for yourself, I would ask you to be specific about what the lie was, because we want to always just make sure that this is just facts, okay? And then your thought right now is, I no longer have feelings for him. I imagine that when you have that thought, and you did not tell me how this feels for you, but sometimes that feeling would be just sadness or perhaps even betrayed. I'm not sure where your head is here. I don't have quite enough information, but I'll put that in there too. I think that's a very common response, a very common feeling when a husband is having this struggle. So then how do you act when you have those feelings? That's the question. How do you show up? My guess is you don't act in a very loving manner. Maybe you act hurt. My guess is you probably don't engage with him. You try not to care about him. Maybe in your brain, we always want to ask in this action line tune, what else is going on for you in your body that's maybe not even just normal actions? What are you thinking? What's happening in your head? And a lot of times this could be you thinking about all the ways in which he's hurt you, how he doesn't deserve your love and your care. And when we have all those actions will create the result for you that you won't want to stay in this loveless marriage, right? You won't want to stay. And again, we can tie that right back to the thought, I no longer have feelings for him. If we tell ourselves we don't have feelings for him, then yeah, why would we want to stay in that situation, right? I love your question though. How do I love him again? How do I get to that point where I have those feelings for him again? And so I think the first step is really to question this thought. I no longer have feelings for him. And my guess is if you dig pretty deep in there, you're going to realize that it's not actually true, but rather your brain's way of trying to protect your heart from feeling added pain, right? So knowing and understanding more about addiction can really help you form some new thoughts. Maybe your thought could be something like, he's an addict and he needs help, or this is not about me and I can be there for him. So when people ask me, how do I love someone again? How do I do that? I think the misconception is that it has to take a long time, that we have to have this period of time to restore this thing that's been broken. But I would suggest to you that you could just today decide to love him. It's as quick and simple as that. I want to talk to you about a decision really quickly, because a lot of times we think we need this time to make that decision. But if someone were to come to you and say, hey, here's the keys to a brand new Tesla, do you want it? Do you need to think about it? You don't even need to think about it, right? You just say, yes, I'm in. Give me the keys and I take it, right? So when you think I need extra time to try to find love for him again, it's absolutely not true. You could decide today, I'm going to love him again. I want you to try that on. As with any disability or mental illness, you could choose to see addiction for what it is and not view it as a slight to you. It's what you're making the addiction and the dishonesty mean about you. And right now it looks like you're meaning that he doesn't love you, he doesn't care about you, maybe he doesn't find you attractive. We internalize all of that. And those are the thoughts that are causing you pain. But like I said earlier, it has nothing to do with you and everything to do with the chemistry in his head. So knowing that, then what do you want to choose to make it mean now? This might take some real effort for you, even though we can make those decisions quickly. Often when we try to present our brains with new thoughts, they're rejected because we need some ladder thoughts to get us to the point where we really feel it and it feels true for us. So it's going to take some effort on your part to change your thinking around this. And honestly, that's not something we can fix here today. So please reach out to me if you'd like to set up a call. I'd love to work with you on this. I should also tell you, I have a good coach friend who works specifically with men who are recovering from a porn addiction. So message me if you'd like his information and I'll hook you up. He does really excellent work. Okay, let's move on. Our next question is from Lorianne. It's either Lorianne or Lorianne. Sorry, I'm not sure how you say that. She says, I've been dating someone for over a year. He is wonderful, not perfect, but still a very good man. I love him, and at the same time, I find myself very anxious around him still. I should add that I was married before and he left me. It's really hard to trust that someone won't leave me again. So I tend to hold back a lot. So Lori Ann, thank you so much for your question. Let's take a look at your model. Your circumstances, you guys have been dating for 1 year. And your thought right now, the painful thought for you is he might leave me, right? He might leave me. Can you guys believe I was a school teacher with this handwriting? It's the worst, seriously. So when you have that thought, he might leave me, your feeling is distrust. See how that thought is creating that feeling for you? And when you have that thought, like you said, you hold back. Maybe you feel anxious. You probably don't open your heart. You don't fully engage in the relationship. Maybe you don't communicate honestly with him or show up 100%. You don't allow yourself to commit to the relationship. And when you do that with all of that action, your result is really that you ruin the relationship before he has a chance. So your relationship is ruined ahead of time. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? So trust is a really tricky thing. Most of us hold on to that belief that trust must be earned. And when we've been burned in the past and our brains become extra protective and even suspicious of people who haven't done anything to hurt us, as really is the case here with your boyfriend, right? Subconsciously, we think if I trust him, he'll likely break my heart. So I'll just break my heart beforehand so he won't have the opportunity. So this is a little bit like Lacey's issues with the birthday gifts, only in this instance, it's the love that you're skeptical of rather than the physical gift. Do you see how they kind of correlate? And so what I'd like to suggest is that trust is not a gift that you give to someone else. Trust is a gift that you give to yourself. When you decide to trust, you are the one who gets to feel the love that goes with it. And that feels so much better than suspicion. And we act completely differently when we feel trusting than we do when we're feeling suspicious. So, as with anything, Lacey, sorry, I got your name wrong. That's not, let's see, Lorianne, sorry. As with anything, there's no guarantees in life. There's no guarantees that we're not going to get hurt. That's what this life is about. We're going to experience ups and downs. There's always going to be 50-50. Doesn't mean you're always half the time you're going to get dumped and half the time they're going to stay. That it can be different 50-50s. But your brain wants to tell you, yeah, this has been our experience in the past, so this is likely how it's going to happen again. But you could just choose to say, look, if that happens again, then I'll deal with it then. Right now, in this moment, I want you to stay really present. When your brain starts to go to that place where you're starting to feel skeptical and nervous, just check in with what's happening right in this moment. Be like, right now, everything's good. I can hear the AC kicking on. I can see the light bulbs. There's nothing wrong. When our brains want to worry, it's always trying to solve for things that we can't even predict. And so just check in with yourself, stay really present and understand, yeah, right now, everything is really good. And until it shows up differently, I'm going to enjoy the goodness. And so your thought right now that he might leave me is super painful, and it's creating results that aren't going to be helpful for you. It's going to cheat you out of an experience perhaps that might be really wonderful for you. So you want to choose a thought like it's possible that he's the one that's never going to leave. What is your feeling when you think that thought? It's possible that he's the one that stays. That feeling of distrust would be changed to something like hope. And your actions would be completely different. You'd maybe open your heart. You'd give more energy and love to your relationship, which gives you a completely different result. Instead of ruining your relationship, you'll be the one to make it better and to improve it. Okay. Moving on. Any questions, you guys? Don't be shy if you want to ask a question. I'm watching that Q&A box and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have. Okay, our next question comes from Karen. And Karen says, I'm struggling so much with loving my husband. I feel like he's so different now than who he was when I married him. I feel a little cheated because he's not what I expected him to be at this point, so I feel deceived. It's hard to stay married to him when I feel like the reasons I fell in love with him no longer exist in our relationship. I've been trying to tell myself to just make it work, but I'm not sure that I want to anymore. I was raised believing in eternal marriage, but maybe people just change and they're not really supposed to be together forever. I'm just questioning everything right now. Karen, thank you so much for your question. This is one I hear a lot as well. When we feel dissatisfied in our relationships, it's really easy to look for reasons to try to explain what went wrong. And it usually looks a lot like blaming our partner and finding their flaws. So I first want you to notice how full of judgment you are for your husband. And ask yourself these questions. Okay, so how is he different now? And what did you expect him to be? I want you to focus on those two questions first. And once you've answered that, how is he different now? And what did I expect him to be? Then I want you to ask the same questions of yourself. How am I different now? And how am I different from what I expected me to be? So many times, our unhappiness comes from focusing in on the faults of our spouse. And it's generally a reflection of how we're feeling about ourselves. For instance, I know if I gain a few pounds or start to feel uncomfortable in my body, I notice I'm more critical of my husband and I'll be like, gosh, he needs to work out more. Or, I'll start criticizing him. And it's just usually because I haven't been taking care of myself the way I want, the way that I think I should. It's just way easier for us to point a finger at somebody else instead. So anytime we're feeling miserable, we can almost be certain that we're being very self-focused and we're feeling sorry for ourselves in some way. It's kind of a difficult, concept for most of us to understand, but it's really not your husband's job to make you happy. That's your job. And it's your choice. Think about this really carefully. It's your choice right now not to enjoy him. Why are you choosing not to enjoy him? It's your thoughts about him and the way that you think he should be and that he's not that are causing you pain. You want him to be different so that you will feel differently about him, but that is not the problem. So let's take a look at your model 2. Your husband will go in the C line. We're just going to put him here. And remember, this is neutral. Your thought is always optional. And right now, your thought is, he's not who I hoped for. He's not who I hoped he would be. And when you have that thought, you feel disappointment. So when you're feeling disappointed, how do you behave? How do you show up with him in your relationship? My guess is you're ruminating on all the different ways that he's failed you. And then you go to look for evidence of all the support that you can find to support that opinion, right? When we're hypercritical this way, when we have this thought of people not measuring up, we notice all of their faults. We judge them really harshly. My guess is you're probably not being very friendly to him, and that you're probably showing him and telling him how disappointed you are. I'm sure it's not a secret. He probably knows that you're disappointed. And the result for you is you're not who you want to be either. Maybe I'm not who I hoped I'd be either. None of us want to be this way. Boy, Jane, this writing's a whole new level. None of us want to act this way, right? We don't want to be critical of people. We don't want to be judgmental. That feels awful. It's not congruent with our higher selves. It's not congruent with our higher being. We're not who we hope for when we act that way. So, the real question for you, and I think what you really need to dig in here, is what am I feeling dissatisfied with in myself? What am I projecting onto him? I think that once you clean that up, you're going to be able to see that situation more clearly. Okay? It's a first step. Obviously, there'll be more work to do here, but really taking a close look at yourself and seeing what your dissatisfaction is in you might be very helpful in this situation. Okay. Tracy says, my husband and I have been married for 23 and a half years. He recently let me know he no longer feels attracted to me, but he loves me very deeply. But he says he needs to be honest with me. He is confused about what he wants and trying to figure out if he wants to stay married. I am totally in love with him and do not want to lose him. He has told me he is willing to give the relationship a chance and work on it and try to connect again to see if he can feel that sexual spark with me again, and that he wants to do whatever he can before walking away. I feel heartbroken as I love him very much. He has been super sweet this week, calling me all the time and reassuring me, yet somehow I can't find peace. Okay, Tracy. Thank you for sending this. This is a tough one. This can feel really hard, and I appreciate you being vulnerable and open to some coaching on this. I think it's important that you understand that as humans, we feel attraction. Attraction goes here in the feeling line by what we are thinking. Okay. And so in this case, your husband has forgotten to think thoughts about you that create that feeling of attraction for him. And so since we can't control what other people think and their thoughts affect our relationship, it makes us feel a little helpless. I get the sense that you're feeling like, what can I do? I don't have peace here. So the question here is, what do you have control over? And the answer is, although we can't control what other people think, we can always control what happens in our own minds. So when you're feeling heartbroken and not at peace, you have to ask yourself, how am I showing up in this relationship? Are you showing up as someone that you would have attractive thoughts about? So especially when we're hurting, and uh, I think especially as women, sometimes we try to manipulate other people by showing them how hurt we are and using our tears and our distress and to guilt other people into changing. Maybe you're showing up a little bit unhappy and letting your partner know how hurt you are. And sometimes that works temporarily. Sometimes we can guilt people into changing their behavior or to staying or whatever the desired result is, but it's usually temporary and it usually causes some resentment in your partner. So we have to look at your model, and your husband says the words. Whenever we have a quote from someone, we're going to put their exact words here. So husband says, I'm not attracted to you. Whoa. Okay, so that's his direct quote. We'll use those words. Your thought is, I don't want to lose him. I don't want to lose him. Okay. That feeling for you, as you expressed in your email, was you're heartbroken. You're heartbroken. That's the feeling that you feel when you have the thought, I don't want to lose him. So then how are you showing up? And I don't have this information because it wasn't included in your email, but my guess is you're having a lot of ruminating in your brain. What if he leaves me? How could he do this to me? Why is he not attracted? How are you acting? Are you acting clingy or needy? Are you showing up really hurt and betrayed? Those actions, the actions that you take from this space of being heartbroken, will create your results. So we don't know your result yet. Will you make yourself less attractive to him by acting this way? Or can you use this feeling to really examine what you're thinking and feeling, what you're creating for yourself? So, because we can't control other people and we can only control how we show up ourselves, your focus needs to be on loving who you are and showing up the best way that you can as a person that you're really proud to be and a person that you love yourself. You can't find peace because you think that your peace is tied to the outcome. If he decides this, then I can feel peace. Or if he doesn't decide that, then I won't have peace, right? It's something you can't control. So your peace only comes when you don't allow his thoughts about you to affect your thoughts about you. Peace for you will come knowing that you're 100% worthy and lovable no matter what he does, and that you're for sure going to figure it out and be okay no matter what. So you really need to have your own back here. I'd love to help you with this. This is something I'm super passionate about, helping women claim that personal power. So please schedule a call with me and we can talk about this some more. I'd be happy to talk about that with you. Okay. I think we have time for one more. Let's go ahead and try. Okay, one moment. Okay, from Heather. Heather says, I know it's my husband's decision about whether he wants a beard or not, but it affects me. I don't like the feeling of it when we kiss. He knows this and has generally kept it shaved to please me in the past. But now that he is working from home because of COVID, he has grown one and it makes me feel like he doesn't care about how I feel. He says I'm trying to control him and I know he resents me for not liking it. Am I wrong to ask him to shave? What are my rights in this situation? So, Heather, I love this question. I do. I think it's so interesting that you're both feeling resentment. Like he feels resentment for you not wanting him or wanting him to shave, and then you feel resentment for him for not wanting to shave. So, you guys have a lot in common. So the reason I love this question is because I think it's a perfect example of how something that might seem really trivial to other people can be a real issue and drive a wedge between you and your marriage if you don't address it. So right now, your painful thought, let's get your model up here. Right now, your painful thought is he doesn't care how I feel. He doesn't care how I feel. And we're just going to put in your circumstance. Husband has beard. Husband has a beard. You think he doesn't care how I feel. And what's your feeling? You feel angry or resentful or hurt. Any of those, right? Angry. Just going to put resentful here because I think that's the main feeling you guys are having for each other. So then how do you act about this beard? Do you pout about it? How are you showing up? Um, my guess is when you feel hurt or you feel like he doesn't care how I feel, you go out of your way to show him you don't care about how he feels either. That's kind of how we react. That's really the result we usually get is I don't care how he feels either. Okay, and neither one of those feels great, right? That's not the result you're likely wanting to create. And I get it. I have had this situation before myself. My husband had a mustache for quite a long time and I hated it. And I get it. I didn't like kissing it either. So it's not something that I think is insurmountable though. So right now, I think you're making his choice of growing a beard mean that he doesn't care about how I feel. But I want you to ask yourself, what if you're completely wrong about that? Just consider it for a second. What if I'm completely wrong about this fact? Maybe he really does care how I feel. Do you have any other evidence that he cares about you? If you ask your brain to find evidence that he cares about you, it will go to work finding that evidence. What is that evidence? Let it present it to you. Let it soothe this thought. That's a very painful thought. He doesn't care how I feel. Of course, we want our partner to care how we feel. So when we tell ourselves that that's just true, that he doesn't care how I feel, of course, we're going to feel very angry and hurt. What if you're wrong? What other evidence do you have that he cares? And what is that evidence, right? And listen, if he chooses to keep the beard or not, I'd really recommend that you try to be open to the possibility that it really doesn't mean anything about you and it's just something that he enjoys. I think that feels so much better than making it mean that he's doing it to hurt you intentionally. You just need to get really honest with yourself on this one and see it from all sides. So you have got this. I know you can handle that. You guys, that's 45. We are on time. I'm going to go ahead and say goodbye. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate all of you for taking the time out of your schedule to learn a little bit and to learn how to improve your relationships a little bit. If you are interested in working with me, go to my website. It's janecopier.com. And feel free to schedule a free call with me. And let's see if you're a good fit for my coaching program. It's an incredible 6-month experience that will change your life. So have a beautiful day. Enjoy this gorgeous weather. Hope you're having a wonderful summer. And I will see you again next time. Bye.